And now, from the Bone Vault, with Gil, Levi, and Justin.
Welcome to From the Bone Vault, coming to you live from below Midnight Lair. I'm Gil.
And I'm Levi.
And I'm Justin.
And tonight we have our special guest from last week, PJ, as well. Say hi, PJ.
Hello.
Yay! Guys, we watched Get Out, and oh my god, I am so ready to talk about this movie. But that being said, guys, hit me with some facts.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take this one this time because I was asked to. Basically, this movie is a 2017 movie, so it's really, really new.
This would be the most recent film we've covered, then.
Yeah, it came out, I want to say it was April 2007. I did go see it in theaters. It stars Daniel Kaluuya as Chris Washington, Allison Williams, who's actually Brian Williams' daughter, as Rose Armitage.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's his daughter. She's also from Girls. That's her other big thing. Catherine Keener as Missy Armitage. Bradley Whitford as Dean Armitage. Caleb Landry Jones as Jeremy Armitage, the brother. Marcus Henderson as Walter. Betty Gabriel as Georgina. And Milton Howery as Rod. Stephen Root is also in here as Jim Hudson, the museum owner. So this movie is not a very large cast that we have the names for, but there's a lot of other characters that kind of come in and out of screen, and it's very location centric on one area. So, Jordan Peele wrote and directed this movie, which is, I want to say, his directorial.
Wait! Real? Okay, hold on. I saw you had that. Okay, so full disclosure, guys. Justin went to send us a copy of the script, and it was kind of odd because I think it was a different edit. This is Peele of Key and Peele?
Yeah.
Yes.
Holy shit!
He wrote the script about his experiences, more or less, and what basically happened is his wife is another comedian, and she's actually white.
Chelsea Peretti. She's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She's Gina.
Oh, that's his wife?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And,
cool.
He just wrote this about experiences he had, like meeting people's families over the years and just things like that. And so I want to say he did some directing on Keanu, that movie where it was him and Key. But that was a comedy, and it was a much different tone than this movie. Wow. And
he wrote this. Did he direct it as well?
He wrote this right after Obama got into office because of all the talk of there being like a post-racial society. Right. And so he kind of wrote it with a different sort of world in mind. And over the time and through edits, he finally came into, during the election cycle, last 2016 election cycle, he finally came to change a little bit, mostly the ending, because of just how he saw society evolving and how he saw these changes taking place where the movie wasn't as on top of its message anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's about it to round out what the movie is factually like. What?
So, premise of the film. Let's go into that real fast. We'll just take the movie and we'll get into the specifics. But the overall scope is: Chris goes with his girlfriend to meet her parents. It's a little uncomfortable at first because he is not certain that. He's like, "Did you tell him I'm black?" And she's like, "Why would I need to do that?" And over the course of the film, you find out that through hypnosis, this family is taking people, specifically black people, and putting white people's mental patterns and physical mind within them to take them over and leave them in this not only hypnotic state where they're buried, but also so that they can control their bodies and continue to live on without infirmity.
Just
that's the
spoiler alert.
I wanted to say, you kind of like just went through the whole film right there, but early in the movie when they're going, there's a discussion in the department. Which, by the way, I want to go ahead and plug this right now. The movie starts off with a sort of stinger where it goes into a man walking through the streets, talking to someone on the phone who you can't tell who it is, right? And he's walking around looking for a house, and he gets kidnapped by a man in a what looks like a Nissan, one of those Nissan GX cars, like an older 90s model car. Right. They knock him out and put him in the trunk. And then it goes through during that scene. There's some 1940s music playing called "Run Rabbit." The song is the creepiest shit ever, and so I just want to say,
was. Yeah.
I want to say that anything from the 40s music-wise is basically just like scary as shit, or it's a jingle. It's like "Swinging on a Star" or something is a 40s song. Like that was a song back then, not just the opening to a TV show. But I wanted to say that they went into another song which is sung in Swahili, and then they went into Childish Gambino song which was Redbone, and that song
transition from those three pieces was really well done. And it was jarring and had this great tone to it.
And it's funny because you see a transition like that in other movies and it just drops the ball. Like Suicide Squad tried that, where they transitioned songs really rapidly at the start of that film, and the film is just so off kilter from it. But the one last thing I wanted to mention is they go, when they're driving to her parents' house, they get stopped by the police. And it lulls you into thinking, oh, Rose is such a nice girlfriend. Like, she sticks up for Chris and comes in. In reality, when you watch it a second time, you go, you know what? She's just keeping there from being a paper trail. If the cops ticket him on the way out there, then there's proof that he was going out that direction when he comes up missing.
Okay,
exactly.
If I can cut in real quick, I just want to say that Allison Williams and pretty much the whole first half of the scene, first half of the movie is completely lovable. Like, I have people constantly tell me like, "Oh, this would be like a white girl you would like," and she is totally that white girl right in that moment. So,
like, that's funny.
Throughout that first half of the movie,
annoyed the crap out of me.
She really sold that shit.
I thought she was sweet as hell up until the fucking keys incident, which me and TJ
exactly. All the way through that movie, I was like,
that shit.
Yeah, all the way through the movie, I was like, yeah, I would totally be completely with her, and then the keys moment would happen, and I would have to flip the script on her exactly the same.
Well, it speaks something to her acting ability. Like, I really thought that the parents were messed up, that she was free and clear of it. Like, he saw the pictures and she was still acting up. I thought maybe she had some hypnosis herself, that something was
what
right.
I thought too. I originally thought that she'd been hypnotized to do these things.
Yeah, and then that switch flipped and you saw her just emotion drain out of her face, and I went, oh shit.
and the whole scene where she's talking to Rod, and her face is completely emotionless, but her voice is like someone who's actually concerned, like, oh my god, he hasn't come home yet. Like, she's really selling it at that moment.
He left his phone here.
Well, here's real quick. Normally we do go a little out of pattern and jump in and jump out. I do want to try to take this movie a little in sequence, because I really want to get. It's kind of silly of me to say this, but I want to get y'all's take, the four of us, on all of those conversations at the start of the film when the party started. Because holy shit, I was squirming in my chair through every scene there. I'm like, oh my god, they didn't say that. Because I didn't expect the outcome of this film that came out. I thought it was just going to be a bunch of racist people. Oh, no. Oh, no.
I wanted to say that one of the funny things, and I want to say PJ and I had the same conversation. I might have also had it with Ricky, because we're all black, obviously. And we had a discussion basically where it was like we felt that someone had taken thoughts and experiences that had happened to us that were like a secret that no one else had, and just put them on screen. And so when you first start the movie and you get into them being at the parents' house, it's like someone ripped a Band-Aid off and it's kind of raw. And I was the only black person in the movie theater when I saw this movie. And
really?
I take that back. There was a white guy with a black woman next to me, but it was just the two of us, and it was a white and Hispanic theater. And the reactions that everybody else had were more tensely uncomfortable and really frightened, because a lot of things that happen in the movie are uncomfortable. Like, even for a person who's not experienced
scary
them,
as hell.
Yeah, it's a very visceral sort of fear, and it's funny because the movie doesn't rely on blood or jump scares early on. It just relies on this sort of psychological terror, because at a certain point, you know you're seeing a horror movie. Like, you've seen something about this, but you're not sure where it's going to go or when it's going to switch over. And there's just enough out of place to where you're like, I don't know about this. This is a weird situation.
So if I can cut in for here just a second, I want to say that there's actually a moment in the movie where Chris's character does the exact same thing. Like, So after the whole dinner with their brother, and he's trying to get him to do like jujitsu fights or whatever.
That was weird.
They're back in the bedroom, and he's sitting there talking to her, and she's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that he would do that." And he's like, "Mm-hmm." And she's like, "And then my dad keeps saying this thing." He's like, "Mm-hmm." And that's the moment that I feel like a lot of like people, like black people in the movie theater would have during those awkward moments, is that they're like, "Yep, that's a moment I expected to happen. Yep, mm-hmm, yep, that's another one." You know? And I was right there with them with all that stuff, and like, I just thought that was really funny that we got a little bit of him being the audience in that scene.
Mm-hmm. That was really, it was really good. I mean, man, it's so hard not to jump around in this film because there's so many good. I mean, I was floored by how I felt after this film was over. And the way it was put together, and just.
Well, one thing I'd like to talk about in particular, this may be jumping around too much, but immediately after I finished the film, I had to go back and look at Chris's interactions with Walter and Georgina, because the way they speak is so disconcerting when you first meet them.
Oh, those actors are amazing, because they are speaking in a way that it should be non-threatening, but it's scary as shit.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's so out of place
are.
coming... Oh, sorry.
No, that's
Go
what I'm
ahead.
saying. Adding to your point,
ahead.
Levi, when you find out who they are, that makes it all the worse.
I know. Right. And that's why I had to go back and watch it, and I was like, oh, like when Chris is talking to Walter, and he's talking about how great... what's her name? Rose is... You know, it's not because he likes her, it's because that's her grandfather. And the reason they speak so oddly is because they're old white people.
Well,
and it's so
about
disturbing, that voice coming out of those bodies, you know?
The other part about that was the scene, that whole scene is the sequence where he goes outside to smoke the cigarette. And he looks across the field, and the music kind of like starts to prickle, and he sees Walter running out of the woods.
Oh, yes.
In my head, I was like, why the fuck is he running like that? But when you think back, he's a track star. He probably picked this body because he knew it could run. He was like, oh, this
he never
body
got
can
over
run.
it.
He never got over that loss he experienced in the Olympics, and you know that was his driving force for creating this whole thing.
And it's funny, the dad actually says he almost got over it.
Yeah.
As one of the
Right,
posts.
so effed up. That's so effed up.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Knowing that when you hear that the second time, it's like, oh, that's so creepy.
It's crazy.
Oh my god.
And it's really funny because I haven't really had, like, it's one of those things. I watched this movie and I actually was like, well, I can't talk about it to these people who I usually would talk about it to. And Ricky's been unavailable because he's also seen it. So I was like out hunting for other friends who had seen it to just like start talking to them. But it's the kind of thing that just inspires a sort of conversation, and I think that it also is a revitalization of like horror, because one of the things that he said, Peele, when he was doing the commentary for the alternate ending, was that he felt like there was parts of horror that hadn't been explored by the horror genre at large. And he says that a lot of this is pulled straight out of Night of the Living Dead, because there's a black protagonist in that too. And he's shot at the end when they're looking for zombies by
I thought
a
about
bunch
that
of
at the end of the
like white rancher dudes who just come by and just start picking off zombies. And he said that was kind of the driving idea behind this, was that that was a very weird commentary to have in that movie, but it also at the time also makes sense for what's happening in the movie, and you know, just like the racial dynamic in the movie.
Well, at what point in the film did you guys actually get to the point where you figured out, like, okay, coming into the film, I knew this was a horror movie, but I genuinely thought, I had read nothing about it. I purposely came in blind because I wanted to be taken into the material, and I did not expect this level of, like, when they were doing the whole auction thing, I'm like, okay, he's going to be sold off to one of these people, and I mean, it unsettled me.
And the first
Yeah.
time I saw the auction, I didn't realize what was happening. It didn't take until this time watching it again.
Yeah, I thought they were playing bingo too, right?
Yeah, my
I was
wife
like-
didn't get it either.
I was like, there was random bingo, and then like for some reason Chris's picture up there. Okay, and watching
And
it,
then when
I
he
was
started
like,
doing the
oh.
numbers, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit,
Now-
they're auctioning this dude off.
I don't
Yeah.
understand the numbers still. Like if somebody could break that down for me, that would
Probably
be great.
3 million, 5 million. or like 500,000.
I wanna say
Okay,
that-
so you're thinking it's money things because everybody's bingo card was a bingo. That's why I was unclear about what was
Well,
happening.
they were in different.
That was just their
patterns, so
auction
you could
paddle.
see, yeah. So you could see the
Oh,
differences
okay.
between them. So they could hide
Okay.
it as playing bingo, but they
Yeah,
looked
I think
varying
it's so
enough.
if
Okay,
he walks
good.
up,
See,
they
thank
can
you,
be like,
thank
we're
you.
playing bingo, you know?
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes, but
And-
then his pictures
just
up
old
there
white
weird.
people games playing some bingo.
And the
Okay,
thing was
thank
is
you,
that,
thank
like, you know, if Chris had been there, they would have still played bingo. They would have just played it without the picture on the stage, and they would have done it in a more open way. But they knew he was still nearby, and they knew that, you know, it was Rose's job to keep him on site in case he tried to leave or had an
Right.
emergency or whatever. And I want to say that the other thing about this movie that sticks with me is that this was the week, I want to say, the week I had an anxiety attack.
Oh,
And
no.
I had gone to see this, and I want to say John Wick 2, almost back to back. It might have been the same day.
Before
you know?
or after?
I saw him, I think, the same day. I think I saw John
No,
Wick
no,
2
no, 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 no.
first.
Of your panic attack, brother.
Oh, but
Did you have?
this was after that.
So your body was like, I hate you so much. Like I just
Oh.
had a panic attack, and you're gonna show me this shit?
And
And,
Show me
and the thing was is
fucking
that
Get
even
Out.
during John Wick 2, I was highly uncomfortable. I had bought the tickets already, so I was like, I'm just going to sit through this. And so I went to a small theater, and it was the most nerve-wracking experience because of just the content of the movie. But I did catch the auction thing, and there's a lot of other small signs. I want to say that even the brothers poking of him during the dinner was an intentional test of aggression to see how aggressive he was, to see if he was strong. Because if they could find out, oh, this guy's athletic, then the person who wants an athletic body is going to be like, well, I want that body. And
Right.
then if he turns it down or fights against the idea of doing, you know, the fighting or doing something violent like that, then the person might be, you know, I don't want that one. I'll wait till the next one.
Which in some ways is very reminiscent of like the back in the actual like slavery days. They would have fights between different slaves and be like, oh, this guy's like an ox, and he would, you know, be able to, he can take down your guy any day and stuff. And they'd have like actual ranked fights.
I honestly don't
Of
know
the
if they
same
ever
kind of
actually
thing.
did
That's
that
so
because I know there's that
fucked up.
Mandingo movie and there's the stuff from
you did not just bring up
there's that
Mandingo.
movie and then there's
Hell, it
the
exists,
part
I
in
know.
Django Unchained. But I've heard someone say that there's not really a historical basis for it. It probably did happen, but I think that they're saying that it's not as widespread because one of the things
Yeah,
about it
I
is
don't know
that,
if
like,
it's widespread.
it costs too much. It would be like you fighting two cars you owned. You know, it
Well,
costs
people
too
do
much.
do that
to,
dumb shit. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
people are
if you were
stupid in
rich
the
enough and
name
had
of
enough
entertainment.
slaves, you probably would have, you know.
And
blown
I
the
mean,
money
people
for
do
two to fight.
cockfights all the time. If you think of slaves, the same way you think of like chickens, be the same
Cockfights
thing
are-
for you.
That was
you know?
Chickens are
That was the
really
same
inexpensive,
equation.
though. And if you,
They are. They are.
you can eat the chicken after it's done fighting.
So
Anyway.
they did the auction, right? And then you find out who has him or who bought him. As fucked up as that is, I still did not expect what was actually happening when he was in the room and he was seeing the TV. I'm thinking, okay, this is some weird shit that this guy does with his slaves or his people he bought. And then the old guy talks about the process. I'm like, what is he talking about? And then literally their conversation, I went, oh shit.
Oh, we haven't even discussed
No
the hypnotism part
way.
of this movie yet, which is the second eerie thing that happens because
Yeah,
it's
true
so
story.
unnerving. Like
His reaction. That what's the name of that actor? The actor that played Chris.
Daniel Kaluuya. He's a
He
British
was on
actor.
point. He was
He
on
actually
point with his
isn't
reactions.
in very much. Like he's been a kind of jokey side character in most
He
things.
should be in more because he
Yeah.
was
Yeah, he was
great.
good.
His
He's in
facial
Skins.
expressions were amazing. Like everything
Yeah.
everything he said with his face, I was like, I feel the same way, dude. Right
Yeah.
now.
When he started crying about his mom, like,
Oh my god, yes.
I could not wrap my head around why she was doing that, but she was bringing him to a vulnerable spot so she could yank the rug out on him.
Well, one
Yeah.
of the things is that he was in Skins was like the first thing he did, which a lot of big name actors now have come from Skins. The kid who plays Beast, I want to say, in in the X-Men movies, and two Game of Thrones actors right now are all from Skins. But he was like the smaller character in Skins. He's also on a show called The Fades. It's a British show that didn't get picked up for a second season. It's a pretty good little sci-fi thing. And then he did an episode of Black Mirror, which is also really good. But one of the things I wanted to say about the early movie is that when she hypnotizes him, it's very subtle because they talk about the methods of hypnotism. They talk about the watch swinging thing that you all expect to see. And she's already stirring the tea, but if you've never seen the movie before, you don't pick up on that sound until it becomes apparent what's happening.
They frame it like she had started doing it, but they purposely toned down the sound of the scraping.
Yeah.
But then it escalates and it escalates and it escalates till you hear it and you hear it. And then they do it center camera. And again, whole audience, holy shit, she's putting him into the trance already.
And the fucking sunken place thing, like, that is the first part where I was like, whoa, what the fuck is happening? Are they sending him to the shadow realm or something? Like, what's going on here?
And at one point, she starts stirring the tea, and then she asks the question about, do you smoke around my daughter? And she stops. So you get that first sound bite of like, oh, the tea is stirring, and you forget it because you just think it's one of those, oh, it's just a sound effect to make it sound like she's actually drinking the tea and stuff. And then they start actually doing it and making it a part of the hypnotism. And I thought that was really brilliant.
Oh, she was really on point actress too.
Oh yeah, she's amazing. I can't think of her name, but I mean well, that's another thing. Let's take a step back. Besides maybe some of the party goers, all of the main cast in this film were on point with their delivery. Yes. You felt like these could have been actual characters. You felt like these people were not just like some kind of roundabout, like empty character. They embodied this. You feel like these people could have actually existed, even for their demented nature or brokenness. I mean, you look at like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and those real effed up families where they got inbreeding and they're silly and they're like these over the top caricatures of these things, right?
Silly.
Well, or Hills Have Eyes. You look at these family mechanisms that exist within these things, and you see like literally multiple psychopaths in one place. They're usually really broken and really damaged. But you look at this family, and that makes it even more sinister. They're believable.
And they're put together. They're put together like hell.
I mean,
yes.
I'll say this like right off the bat, and like this is probably the weirdest week to be saying this, but one of the things that makes the movie like really impressive in terms of like it being a racial commentary is that it does go into this saying that these people are not trying to say that blacks are below them. And that's the problem.
Not at
They're
all.
putting them on a pedestal,
right?
And you know, nowhere in this movie does anybody say the word nigger. No one in this movie says any racial slurs. What? Huh?
Well, no white person says nigger.
Okay, I take that back. Rod says the word nigger.
Rod says it twice, and the song Redbone says it twice as well.
Yeah. By the way, I want to say something about. I don't know if Gil saw the alternate ending. The alternate ending in this movie is basically it goes up to the same point where he gets in the road with Rose and he's choking her. And he actually does kill her. Like, he chokes her out and kills her right there. Oh,
really?
And then the police car pulls up, and it's actually a police car, and two cops get out. And he gets down on the ground with his hands up, and they arrest him. And then it cuts to 6 months later, he's in jail, and Rod comes to visit him, and he's like, you know, the house burned down, there's no evidence. If we can get you to remember the names or faces you saw in those books or in that closet, we can possibly start tracking people down and piecing this whole thing together. And Chris is just kind of like, you know, I got him. I stopped him. I don't want anything else. It's just it's a bridge that's too far. We can't get all that. But at least I stopped this. And you know, Rod kind of pushes again to get him to say something. He just tells him, you know, I'm giving up on this whole thing. And he goes back to his cell, and the movie ends. And the ending would have been like what he said basically was that when he got to the campaign last year, he changed the ending. And the ending would have been a little appropriate, but one of the things that struck me as odd is that it's the most serious you ever see Rod get in a movie that has some serious stuff happening. And it almost felt out of character because the actors were too involved in the role at that point. Like, they were too on point. Like, they shot that ending, and it has its music and everything. And they were invested in it, and they really were serious about it. And so it almost came off as out of character on Rod's part.
Can I say, can I cut in real quick? So I actually have two notes here. One is that when you see the lights, I did think that it was cops the first time through.
Yeah,
I did
me
too.
And-
That's what they want
me
you
too.
to think.
I'm like, oh no. I just kept saying that over and over again. Oh
Exactly.
no.
And because I was like, because
Not
like
like
me,
this.
me being black, thinking like, oh, this is just really bad looking right now.
Yeah,
but
but-
I was also thinking that this was like a statement on the climate in America, in 2016, 2017, is that like this shit could have been like, okay, he's the
Worse.
hero of this film, but
he's
it's
literally
really
about to go
bad.
to jail
Yeah, he's gonna
for
go to
being
jail
the
for
hero.
this shit.
Go to jail
and to
if
hear
he's
that
lucky.
that's
he's
that's
lucky, go
how
to jail.
it could have ended. Completely crushed me. Like I wrote these notes completely independent of knowing that there was a separate script from what you just said right now, and I think that that's hilarious. Also,
It's like, he gets up off the street. All right, guys, I know what you're thinking. I know how this looks, but listen up. Like, because that's not going to work. There's no story you could tell that, like, okay, these people trapped
No.
me. They're going to cut my brain out and change it with someone else's brain.
also, just a quick aside too, when he's choking her, he does this like little nod to say, as if to say like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm still going to choke the shit out of you right now. I just thought that was hilarious. But anyway,
It's like,
shut
wait
up,
a
shut up.
minute. No. Go back. Hold on. I wonder if that's a, pardon the pun, nod to when he was in the bedroom and he's on his computer and she's just talking and he's
Right.
like,
Right.
sure, right.
Mhm,
Choking
I
the
understand
life
you
out
had
of
to
you.
do it. Mhm. But anyway,
Well, Levi, let me ask you this: did you have the same oh shit moment that I did when you had the reveal of what they were actually doing, or did you catch something was, well, okay, I don't think it's really this earlier in the film?
Well, I didn't really catch exactly what was going on until Stephen Root was talking about, you'll be in the back and I'll be in the front manning the controls, or whatever he was saying.
Right.
Because I'm slow to pick up stuff on movies, I'll be honest.
You're not
I didn't
slow.
even realize.
You're not slow, dude. I don't think anybody picked this up before that part of
Really?
No,
the
I would
But
love to have seen
I'm
this in
usually
theaters
slow.
and heard people go, "Oh shit!" in the theater when that happened.
When Grandma starts trying to claw his eyes out, that... Like, I didn't realize exactly who Walter and Georgina were until Rose said, he's got Grandma.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
Same
oh,
here.
shit. That's why they acted the way they did. And, like, everything clicked
Yeah,
into
everything
place right
clicks at that
then.
moment for you. Well,
Yeah.
not
note
even
on-
Chris at that
The
moment.
entirety of it.
A note on
Right.
that is the grandma thing was one of the most telling moments about him, because you could have thought, okay, this guy is just in a rage. He's just killing anybody he comes across. But because of what happened to his mom and how his mom died because someone left her there, he couldn't leave Georgina in the street. Like, he stops, he thinks about it, and he gets out of the car and gets her.
Well, you see the flashback when he goes back to thinking
Yeah.
about it too.
And he just, like, he couldn't leave someone behind without, and he didn't know who she was either. Like, he really hadn't figured it out, I don't think.
Right.
All he knew was that as far as he knew, he could have been like, okay, I know what they tried to do, but she could just be hypnotized. I had no expectation in my head that was the grandmother.
And something Jordan Peele said in the ending, in the commentary on the ending, was that is the moment that Chris sort of wins over his demons, because he's been feeling horrible about what he perceives as his fault for his mother dying. And at that point, when he saves Georgina, he's okay. And
Yeah.
that's what he said in the alternate ending when he went to jail, is that he was fine in jail because
He finally
He
had hit a plateau.
He
he fixed
found his peace
the
around
wrong
it.
that he did. Right.
I did want to.
And
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're on a little roll now.
I didn't know what I was going to say next. I just say and. Mostly, so.
Say and so it
And
works.
I had nothing else to say.
And the end.
I was going to say that we do have to do our little Star Trek connection thing. I
really?
Oh, what did you actually find one?
Stephen Root was Captain Kavada on 2 episodes of Next Generation Unification
God.
Parts 1 and 2.
Oh, wow.
I remembered that one when I saw him. I was like, that's gonna be
Holy
He was
mine.
also in
crap.
Office Space.
Yeah. And he was also on, was it News Radio?
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
that's right.
that's right. I always get him mixed
That's
up with
awesome.
Rip Torn for some reason, and
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I could see
That's
that.
racist
No, I could
against
definitely-
white people.
It is. No, I definitely
No.
I'm very sorry.
I totally get that because I got a total Rip Torn vibe out of him in this movie. So
He's the dude on Super Troopers, right? The old captain guy.
Is he?
no.
Oh.
Or
Am
is
I
that
being
Rip
racist?
Torn?
You're being
I don't
racist
know.
to white people.
Who knows? Everyone
these
is
old
ripped
white
torn.
guys.
All
look
those old
alike.
white dudes, yeah, they look alike.
I was going to say the most unrealistic thing about this phone with all this movie with all its brain swapping is the Windows Phone's presence everywhere, because both Rod and Chris have prominently displayed Windows phones.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
2016, 2017, Windows phones were already dead at that time.
Basically.
And the pad, the Microsoft Surface,
I didn't see
was
that
very
one.
prominent.
Surface
you,
may-
you mean
I
the
can
one
believe
that
the Surface.
Rose had?
Yeah, they had so much tech
Rod
on
was
display.
using Chris's too.
Well,
Pretty
Rose has
prominently.
that scene where she's eating the Cheerios in the bed and
Oh
mixing
my
the
God.
milk.
That
was
so
That was
creepy.
so
And
separate
that's weird.
Cheerios.
That
and
scene
eating them
was
freak.
individually.
a last minute thing.
Was it Cheerios
Oh,
or was
really?
it Fruit Loops?
Fruit Loops.
Oh,
I'm
Fruit
sorry.
Loops.
Fruit Loops, that was
Because
Fruit
it
Loops.
was important that they were colored. They said that she kept the milk and and the colored cereal separate.
Oh,
and
my
she's yeah
fucking.
Speaking of colors,
I love
all
this
of the
movie.
party members
are
were
wearing
black.
red. Are wearing red.
They're wearing black.
But they have on red too. They all have on red somewhere on their person, and he has on blue. He's the only person in blue at that party, and everybody else is in red.
I didn't
shit.
notice that.
So let
God,
me ask
this movie's
this.
good.
Let me ask this for PJ and Justin. What did you think when Chris walks up to the guy? I can't remember his name. He's the guy that gets kidnapped at the beginning of the
Oh,
movie.
the fist bump thing.
Yeah, when he walks up to him and he starts talking to him, what did you think as African American males when he
Well-
walked up to that guy and he responded that way?
Well, here's the thing. Like, what I thought was happening, what I was 100% sure they were going to go with the route was that these people were basically thinking that blacks are uncivilized and we need to civilize them. And then they were brainwashing them with hypnotism to basically be civilized, like
I did too.
to
Okay,
integrate
that's
in
what I was
society.
thinking, too.
And I think the movie
Right.
does a good job kind of portraying it that way, so that there is
Pointing you
some
in that
doubt.
direction.
Yeah. And
Right.
that the fist bump thing is actually in the commercial. It's one of the first commercial things I saw, and it was really creepy and off-putting. And I
Also,
remember
it's
that,
literally me and Justin's emergency signal. If we're ever in a situation where
like,
we
if
need
I'm
some
at a party
support,
and
we
I
send
just
that
fist
picture
you,
to
you
each
go to
other.
fist bump me, get the fuck out of there.
We're like, oh god.
This is the international symbol of a black man in trouble.
Oh
Get me the
my
fuck out of this
God.
place.
Exactly. Continue, Justin.
So good.
Oh, I mean, that's all I had to say was that was my thought. They went through a lot of trouble to not make it overtly obvious what was happening, to not make there be any monsters
They did a
or any
really
chase
good
scenes.
job.
So I had one moment in that. So it wasn't the scene where he first meets. I think his name was Andre in the film. I know it's Andrew.
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
was
sure if they
Dre.
showed
They're
it was
calling him
Andre.
Andre.
Dre.
Yeah.
Okay. So when he first meets him, I didn't really have much. I was just like, oh, this guy's like weirdly hypnotized. But then watching the movie once and then watching it again. So the one of the party goers, I think his name was Mr. Tanaka. Mr.
The
Tanaka?
Asian dude.
The Asian guy.
Yeah.
He says, how is it? Do you think that it's harder to be an African American or it's easier to be an African American? And Chris kind of sits with that question. I think that's what like a lot of black people were like, whoa, I get that question, not a lot, but enough to where it's just uncomfortable. So he had that he had that uncomfortable thing. And so then he fields it off to Andre. And Andre's like, well, my experience as an African American has been good. And when you
Chris
watch the movie
Chris
again,
rolls his eyes the
exactly,
hardest.
because you're like, no. But when you watch the movie again, you realize, oh, he's a white dude inside of Andre's body. So of course it's going to be easy for him because he's in a situation where everybody accepts
Oh
him.
my god! And it was
for
that old white woman's
situation.
husband.
It's
Exactly.
It was that old white woman's husband.
that
I just
know
realized
black
that.
people game from Chappelle's show, and it's like if you answer that way, they're just like, man, wrong. Like that's
Wrong.
Not,
It was hard.
at all.
It's hard. It's always hard.
But I was gonna say that what's funny about this is that they take such attention to detail, so that things that things that happen are there later and they are important, or things that happen before directly affect the later scene. When they hit the deer in the beginning, which is really creepy, and that was the other thing, is that you don't know why he's so involved in that deer. Even hitting the deer and leaving it behind, he couldn't like let that sit right in his head. Like,
I thought that was an allusion to we were going to have some of the most dangerous game level shit going on in this film.
like I kind of
You know
did
what I mean?
too. I kind of thought it was like an allusion to there just being this danger that he was approaching, like a warning from nature sort of thing. But like,
Right.
it was more just that like he hit this animal, or she hit the animal and he couldn't leave it behind. But after that scene ends and they get done with the police and they're driving away, you can actually hear the headlight that the deer hit sort of rattling in the car. Like even that little bit of detail is still there.
Yeah, the sound design in this movie is amazing.
Man, you look at this film, and I compare it to, okay, so we may get into spoiler territory for a film that I kind of may spoil for you guys if you haven't seen it, but I feel like I have to make this comparison because there's other horror and suspense and psychological horror people out there that would love this film. Have you guys seen the movie H?
I've never
I
heard
don't
of
know
that.
the
No.
movie H. Mm-mm.
Okay,
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Unfortunately, I have to spoil the film for you, so this comes across. I'm sorry. The H in the beginning. Well, let me get this. If you don't want to hear this, fast forward. We'll give a timestamp here somewhere.
To avoid a spoiler, fast forward to 36 minutes, 31 seconds.
H stands for hypnotism, because the main hero of the film, you find out, is the copycat killer that has been doing all of the murders in the film through the entire film. He's been chasing himself.
Oh wow.
Oh.
And the guy that's been behind bars that's been talking about, oh, this is not a copycat, it's me, I'm doing it. And they're like, you can't. You've been here the whole time. There's no way you can be doing it. He's been the one that hypnotized the main cop to go carry the stuff out. And you do not find this out to the dead end of the film, and it will make your mind explode. It's a Korean horror film
Oh, okay.
that takes its time,
I
meticulously.
have one word
takes
for
its
you,
time.
Gil. Fallen.
Oh shit! Yes,
The Angels-
yes.
the
I didn't
Fallen
even
Angels
think
movie?
about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say
similarly,
That movie messed with my mind.
There's a
It's
lot
so
of
good.
there's a lot of stuff like that. This is not an as illustrious example, but there's some stuff in the last season of Sherlock that was really creepy. Like just
Yeah.
there's a one point where they're talking across a glass cell like Hannibal Lecter style. And the person inside keeps saying, look at the glass, and they're just trying to talk to her and ask her questions. And then the glass is like this the whole time, but you look at it and realize there's no glass there. It's just the signs are kind of set into the wall, so they're standing like there's glass, but she can just walk in and out of that cell at any point. And, that's the kind of psychological thing, like, I think that a lot of horror movies don't play with your mind enough. They kind of just
I agree.
count on the
Yeah.
shock.
Well, when you have Insidious, when you have Paranormal Activity,
there-
movies that rely on that jump scare.
Which by the way, quick fact for the production studio, one of the production studios for this movie, Blumhouse Productions does Paranormal Activity and Insidious. So,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And
they helped in
Oculus,
this.
Oculus is actually a movie that plays with your mind more, because in that movie you never know what's actually real, because the whole thing is you hallucinate things that cause you to kill yourself. And same thing with Bye Bye Man. That's a bad example, but it does that same thing.
I actually haven't seen that yet.
Bye Bye Man's stupid
One thing
as
it-
hell.
Yeah.
One thing I really appreciated about this movie, taking all the social commentary out of it and everything, I loved that he set out, like, when he figured out what was going on, he got the hell out of there and he started
Yes.
killing people when he needed to, and he ended up not dying. He and Rod didn't die. Rod came and saved him, and in just a pure surface, I enjoyed the hell out of that last, however long it was, 30, 45 minutes of him just getting the hell out of there and stopping these people. And that was
And he's
awesome.
smart about it too. He's really smart. He puts the
Yes.
cotton in
Yes.
his ears to block that sound.
Oh, wait,
Now,
which by
I
that,
will say this: he should have kept it in his effing ears.
yeah,
Yes.
He
I was
should
like,
have.
Chris, what are you doing?
Here's the thing, though.
Someone made the point too to say that it's interesting to see a black man in a movie get saved by picking cotton.
Oh yeah, that's been a thing. He has to pick
I don't know
save
where that
himself.
quote came
No.
from, but
Get
I know I heard that
Wow.
quote
It-
somewhere.
it was
before, and I
intentional.
thought that was amazing. Exactly, I
I'm
know that
sure.
it was intentional
And I was
because
gonna say that one of the things.
Jordan
put
Peele
that
is very much
together.
that kind of director and writer to do that kind
But
of thing.
one of the
So-
things is that if he kept the cotton in his ears, he would have been sort of without a sense going out
That's
into the
true.
hallway. And you
That's
really
true.
Very
sound,
true.
especially in a house where there's no guns and they have to run up on you. Sound is a very important, and they can't shoot you either. They want you alive because they need your brain.
Absolutely.
And so
True.
sound is a very important. They want your body, not your brain. Sound's a very important.
He should have at least put him in his pocket.
Yeah,
Write something to
I
keep
mean,
you
I
with
think
him.
that
Well, but
he knew
Chris
he
really
couldn't
was
just
not
leave.
dumb. Yeah, Chris was not
Right.
unintelligent in any part in this film. He was not. He was the final guy as opposed to final girl.
The last
But
man.
The last man. No, but he didn't. There was no point in time in the movie where I felt like he was making a dumb choice ever.
No.
I was never yelling at him. Other than maybe,
Right.
like I thought he maybe should have finished off the brother. But then when you see the blood pooling, it's like no, he's dead. He's
Yeah,
toast.
I actually
Yeah.
thought that when I watched it again. I was like, that brother looks like he's really dead. I also think that
his
the
eyes were still
fire,
open and
he probably should have put that fire out. I only say
Hell
that
no.
because
I don't know
that
the
he saw it.
evidence.
Hell no.
No,
But
the
house
evidence is
down
burned
to the
up
ground.
though. Like
Nah,
everything in
Yeah,
that
but
house.
I could see in the whole passion of everything. Dude,
Yeah.
if I'd have been in that dude's shoes, I'd have been like, burn, mother, burn.
Like two things he could have done smarter was grab that picture thing from upstairs and put that fire out. But those are really high level thoughts when you're trying to escape a house where people
Right.
are all trying to kill you, basically.
Right.
So-
and I mean the wherewithal that he kept within himself when he was being stalked like that. The hide, make sure the dad's in the open when he's looking away, kill him quick.
Right.
And then the get his body out of the make sure it's in here and get rid of this clunky weapon.
Oh, and
then
this
when
stab.
the brother has a hold of him, exactly. When the brother gets a hold of him and he goes to put the foot on the door and you see him time it because he knows
Well,
Yeah.
I
he
gotta
tests
get
the
my
He
theory
does it a couple
twice.
times.
He does
Yeah.
it twice, and then the third time he just right in the leg, and that's enough to make him let go. And when the mom stabs him, he just grabs the knife and goes down over it, kind of hold her fist in place, and then doesn't he stick her with the knife that's stuck through him?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
In the temple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stabs her right in the face.
That's a
Talk
very
about what,
Naruto
like,
move.
those deaths, like the dad and Jeremy, like those deaths were very brutal, right? But
Yeah.
the mom and Rose,
Oh,
the people who hurt him the most, I think, were very personal. Like
Yeah.
Rose, of course, the most because she's deceived him the longest. She's been with him for however long they said in the movie. And the mom was someone that seemed like
5 months.
very, very nice, and thank you, the very nice and seeming like welcoming and stuff, and then to be just another part of this whole story. I thought that was really cool. Like they were able to differentiate that, but in a way that he's still like, I'm taking everybody out. You know?
And then Andre.
So-
Andre.
wait, hold on. Something just occurred to me. I think they're siblings.
Who?
Who?
The husband and wife. Think for a second. Hold on. Matt back in the film when he's watching the video, right? And it's the old guy, and he's walking through, and he comes around. You see people walk up. No. I'm sorry.
They're not siblings,
I misspoke. The kids you see in there were a little girl, a little boy. That's the brother and sister.
That's Rose and Jeremy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Exactly.
say also-
For some reason, I thought that was the dad, mom, and I'm like, ah!
Too much Game of Thrones.
I was going to say that the other cool thing is that when Andre gets the gun and he's been flashed with the camera, his mind goes back right for that split second, and he has just enough wherewithal
Walter,
to turn and shoot
not Andre.
shoot her and then himself.
Oh, you mean Walter?
Yeah,
well, that's
Walter, not
Andre.
Yeah.
No, that's not Andre.
No, it's-
Andre's the other person. Walter.
Yeah,
is
Andre was the other guy.
Andre's the guy who was at the house who got flashed with the camera originally that showed us that trick.
Oh shit! What happened to him?
He went back home with his wife because at
Yes,
that
he's
point
just-
the only person there was the
somebody.
guy who won the auction.
Well, I wonder if Chris and his buddy went back and saved him.
No,
Oh, I
they
doubt
didn't
it.
because they're black, Gil. They're black.
Yeah, because, they didn't, because I tell you right
Which
now,
it's-
that were me and PJ. That would be the end of this story.
Fuck Andre.
It was
at
funny.
the end.
It's funny you said that because the last movie we talked about was Big Trouble in Little China, and you both said that if you were Jack Burton, you would have just hightailed it
would've
out of
just
there
left, dude.
when everything
There'd have
happened.
been no adventure.
And I thought about that in this movie because basically Rod says that over and over. He's like, "You got to get out of there. You're a sex slave. You're going to be a sex slave.
So
You're going to be a hypnized sex
And
slave."
he
So
did
if I
miss
can-
an
if I can
opportunity
speak
at the
to
very
that,
end of the film.
If I can speak to this, like basically, yes, that's how every black person that watched that movie would basically have the same idea. But also, like, there's some things in the movie that I think I have some personal experience on, like, because in high school I dated a white girl. For
Oh, were
like,
you hypnotized
2
into being
I wasn't,
host
no.
for a white? No, I'm kidding. Go
I
ahead.
can
it wasn't,
attest.
but
I
they
can
were-
attest to this being the most awkward thing because I was there
they
for
were-
a little bit of it.
Yeah,
Oh,
there were certain moments that kind of chimed true for me. Like in the beginning of the movie, he's like, "Oh, did you tell them that I was black?" And I never asked my girlfriend that, but my mom asked me that. She was like, "They know you're black." And then when I came back from the first time we were meeting, they were like, "Did they treat you weird?" Because her parents were older than my parents, so they know that they were in a time period where
that's a pretty big
generational
generational gulf. Yeah,
exactly.
No,
and then
at
one point in the movie, when Chris is talking to Georgina, and he talks to her, they have a weird moment, and he goes back and talks to Rose, and he says, I don't think that she likes that I'm with you. And Rose is like, why not? And he's like, it's a thing. And it is a thing. Like, not all, but some black women have a thing about black guys dating white women specifically.
But that actually had a different tone too, in two respects. Mm-hmm. The first part of it is that's the grandmother, so maybe she comes from a different era where it's like, I don't want to see this.
But he didn't know that at that point.
No. But thinking about the movie, I understand where you're coming from, Gil. Like she's from a further era.
But there's another part to her. Remember, the original person that she is was a black girl that was with Rose, because she's the last
not necessarily
picture.
Because it also could be that they were friends, because that's one of the things.
I think that was the connotation that they were going with.
I really
everybody
think
in
that's
that
the
box was
someone
she was
everyone
with.
In that box.
Rose didn't care about the actual sexual part of the thing. She was
I guess that could be the case.
Bodies. I don't think they were.
I just assume like Justin that maybe she brought a friend home.
Because the thing was that he did say that the commentary kind of applied to friends too, because that does happen sometimes with friends. I did want to say that I was there for a lot of PJ's experience, and I do remember a specific time about each of those things happening where there was something just really awkward and off kilter. I know he went to dinner once with his girlfriend, and a waitress was there that was black. And she actually came over to the table, and he was alone, and she was all smiley and happy. She left and came back with drink orders, and then his girlfriend was there, and her tone just changed completely. And then
that sucks.
I've actually had a family member that was like, "I will not come to your wedding if you marry this woman," because she was white. And it was just so weird. I was like,
that thought process is like
you get it from both sides. I was going to say the other thing that was really weird was there was a discussion, and I might have been there for this, I might have not, where if I wasn't there for it, I was told about it in detail. But basically, he had dinner at her house, and she was a moderately attractive girl, and she had let's just say a larger than normal butt. And her mom brought this up at dinner in front of him and her, and then made a comment about how black guys like big butts. And it was just, I don't remember if I was there or not, but it's one of those things that someone...
Akko Taco doesn't even begin to describe that.
I mean, someone will say that in front of you.
Bringing that back to the movie, that's exactly what the dad does in the beginning of the movie. He's just like, he has all these like little things, like he starts talking about, I would have voted for Obama the third time.
Yeah.
Like that. It's one of those weird situations that completely happens all the time. I actually heard someone recently call that... what did they say? I think they said it was like suburban racist. It's like they don't do anything overtly racist. They don't hate the people, but they say these like small like things that kind of make you just uncomfortable.
It furthers the division when they're not thinking about it, but it just further alienates.
Well, it's an attempt to make you feel like they're on your side, or they're comfortable with you,
or there's a side.
Yeah, but
that's the thing. There shouldn't be a side.
There shouldn't be a side.
Well, I think it's an attempt to make you feel comfortable, but at the same time, it makes it sort of apparent and kind of like hangs a lampshade on it so that it's just so apparent suddenly. And
well, it's obviously you being the white dude saying it, you're thinking about this.
Yeah, I mean,
it brings it to the front. Like you said, it puts a big lampshade on it. And it's still visible.
It was already visible, but it puts a lampshade on it when you go there about it and make it about race for this other person. Because it's, there's a lot of little things, like you go somewhere and someone keeps calling you brother, or they switch the street slang on you for
Gil
no
does
reason.
that to everyone, Justin. Don't worry.
No,
I do call everybody brother.
Yeah, so does Hulk Hogan and stuff. But I mean, like if someone
but he's a
Hulk Hogan can't call me brother anymore, or kid, or boy, or any of that. But the dad does that in this movie too. He switches to like a sort of street slang when he's talking to Chris, and Rose brings that up.
at the same time, well, first I think it's interesting to point that out that the dad does that, but at the same time, Chris isn't that stereotypical what you get from Hollywood. He's not the stereotypical guy that's dating a white guy or married to a white woman. He's like where it's like, oh well, hi guys, I'm the they have that voice that's very like studious and all that kind of stuff. He's very much himself, I think, in this whole movie.
They talk like Carlton.
Yeah,
but he does slightly switch it when he's talking to the parents, but that's not really a
but when he
white
approaches
thing.
when
It's just a respect thing for parents,
well,
right.
He does tend to change his way of speaking just a scotch, just minutely, when he tries to approach the other black characters in the film.
And that is completely true.
We all do that, though.
Oh yeah,
we all
same
like,
here.
Like we all like drop our voice an octave when we're speaking to someone who's black, typically. And another thing is the dad and the mom, they come off as these really non-threatening, sort of like old-fashioned hippie liberals, and the dad has that beard, and they're like academia types. I mean, it seemed that way about them, and so it also helps the illusion of the movie, because one of the things is that you can write like that Spike Lee movie where every white person's just snarling racist and it's just heavy-handed as hell, but you don't really win people over with that, because it makes it look so bad and it makes it seem too over the head beating you. This is the movie that honestly, if you watched it and you were just watching it for the horror movie element, you still got some enjoyment out of it, because I think...
Well, like, there was never a point in the film where here's the thing. They buried the lead so well that I was positive. I was 100% positive when I came into this. There's going to be some racist shit in this film. Ooh, they're saying stuff that's racist. And it's not.
Yeah, there's never a moment where I felt like Jordan Peele was like, white people are bad.
Right.
No, he's like, these people are bad.
These people are fucked up.
These people are bad. These people are fucked up, not white people.
Exactly.
And I think that's the important point of this film, is that it's like we can talk about race relations and we can separate it from people who are just fucking crazy. And these people are just fucking crazy.
And I think the only white people that weren't part of the crazy cult was the cop that stopped them, right?
The cop,
that was in the entire movie.
I don't think the cop.
Technically, Stephen Root, because he says that it's not about race. He just wants Chris's ability.
But he was still crazy.
No, I just meant part of the
he would take
cult.
somebody's body.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just meant
a cult.
every
thing,
white
too,
person
by
in
the
the
way.
movie is crazy, except for the cop.
To a point you guys were making earlier, I think all three of you hit this a little bit, but when you talk about the two characters that could have shown up in this movie, one of them is the black guy that's doing everything just to blend in. And I don't mean the black guys with a white guy in their body. I mean the black guy that has to talk like the studious white guy. That guy didn't show up in this film.
Right.
You thought those guys were that guy,
Exactly.
but that guy wasn't there.
No.
But then you had the reverse. You never had the white guy that had to be the champion of the black character and be the gateway for the audience in there. Like Jack Burton was in the other film. There was never a white person in this film that you felt had to be the vehicle for that.
And there was never like
even
the white
Chris.
person that was like Rose wasn't hood or anything like that. She wasn't trying to speak any slang. She was a unique,
genuine character.
And he spoke how he spoke.
I think it's the failing of Hollywood that one of the big things they always try to do is they try to shove characters in the movies, not even just like about a white character, but just about a certain character to kind of lead an audience into a world that doesn't need to be there. We saw it happen to the Dark Tower movie. They didn't need that kid in the movie. I didn't see the movie, but I mean, when I saw the preview, I was like, they don't need that kid. They could have just...
He was part of the original story.
Yeah, but it looked like they gave him more of a bigger role, and that's one of the things they do in a lot of movies is they try to create this fiction out of a source material that's not there. The Giver movie, they made the romance thing played up a lot. That's not there in that book.
I didn't see that one yet.
And it's one of those things that I think Hollywood just needs to let things stand on their own and be trustworthy. They don't trust the Ghost in the Shell story, so they mess that up. They don't trust this, and they mess that up. More often than not, when a story stands on its own feet, it's really rare that Hollywood meddling fixes a story. The one example I can think of is Children of Men. That book is terrible, and the movie somehow pulled what it is out of that terrible fucking book and made a good movie. But I think that a lot of time it's a trust issue. It makes a bad situation worse. It makes the Joker, who already was kind of iffy, like just be sort of part of the movie tacked on, and they don't trust the director and his vision. And I think that whoever took
Right.
Jordan Peele in and trusted him with this movie, they really were just
Made an
like
excellent
Yeah,
choice.
it was an excellent choice
Excellent
because
choice.
that's a gamble. Like when people see an actor like Chris and an actor like Daniel Kaluuya in a movie, they see that and they go, "That's a black movie," and they just don't go see it. And that's the risk you run for that. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is. And to trust that it wouldn't end up like that, they took a big chance, and it paid off. And,
They did.
and I think big chances pay off when Hollywood's willing to take them and actually stand by them.
Yeah,
Hard to
that's the
give
key,
the
though.
opportunity.
You have to stand by it, though.
Yeah.
You can't mess with the formula after
Yeah,
you've
you
started
can't start
it in that
backpedaling or
direction.
bringing a second director to
Yeah.
rehash all this stuff.
Right.
It happens so much, and it's. I think that what, like we discussed this before the podcast a little bit. That there's this discussion going on this week. Of course, you'll be hearing this, in October, but there's a discussion going on right now that Rotten Tomatoes is ruining Hollywood, that their aggregator of critic reviews is ruining Hollywood. And that might sound valid to some people until you look back in the 80s and they said the same thing about Siskel and Ebert. The difference is that Siskel and Ebert were two critics and this is all the critics. And Rotten Tomatoes in the last 2 years has almost doubled its fan base and people who come to the site because they started to take in...
Because they trust it.
Well, it's not just that. They started to take in smaller time critics. Like, I know a guy who writes the reviews that go on Rotten Tomatoes, and he's just an internet reviewer. But what makes the big difference is that people find out that when they go to that site and look at something, they can trust it because it's more or less a general audience ideal. Now, it's not always true. I have definitely had my movies that were, 30% on Rotten, and I was okay with them. But there's also the other side. I've had those 90% on Rotten that I'm not okay with. Like me in the movie Logan. I don't like Logan that much. I wasn't that impressed by it, but a lot of people were.
Oh, man.
And
I would love to have that conversation.
we might one day.
Wish that, like-
But I think that one of the things about it that makes this sort of stand out is that this movie was universally liked. It has like 100% on Rotten. It doesn't have as good a score.
Wait, whoa, time. This film has 100%
It's like
on
a
Rotten
99, maybe now, but it was 100 one time.
What?
And
Now
No, wait.
that's
It
really
deserves it. It deserves because it was an
Yeah.
excellent film. I was genuinely unsettled.
But the thing about this is that like the things that are getting the 100% right now, this movie, Dear White People, and Atlanta all came out around a high 90s,
All
100%.
three things I love.
And I didn't see Dear White People. I've seen the first few episodes of Atlanta. But what's interesting about those is that those movies are taking perspectives that are not usually seen by the greater audiences and showing them. And I think that that's what's going to save Hollywood. It's not just finding a way to pump more gold out of the superhero movies. I love superhero movies. And I think that they're a great thing that they have become kind of our action movie replacements. But at the same time, I think that if they rely on that too much to make money and they don't rely on these smaller budget ideas that are taking a chance like this, they're going to lose out because critics do like
agree.
these.
Just to cut in real quick, right now, as of today's recording, Get Out has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. I've
Yeah,
never
it dropped
seen
1%
that.
at some point.
I've never
That's
seen
amazing.
that. Never.
Oh, I
in my
have.
life.
I want to say that Zootopia was at 100 for a while too. Like there are things out there.
But that's a
did you
totally
see
different movie. That's
Zootopia,
like
though?
Family. I did not.
It
see
was a good
Zootopia.
movie. It was a really
it's
good
just
movie.
It's just racial commentary once again. Like it's another
Yeah.
thing that's like it's even more heavy-handed than this, I think. And
Yeah.
and one of the things about it is that like people just are tired of Hollywood kind of pampering them and bullshitting them and saying that you're too sensitive to see this. You're too,
I think we're looking at a generational difference though too, Justin. I think people of our age category are coming we're finally getting to the point where we're not, I'm in my mid-30s. People finally kind of consider me an adult when I have a conversation.
Not me yet.
Not you yet.
Not yet.
No, but I mean,
I'm a Toys R Us kid.
I mean that.
don't consider
but I mean
myself an
that
adult.
seriously. I think that we're to the point where people that are around about our 30 to 35 age category are in. I don't want to say the majority, but we're finally part of the bigger discussion, and people take validity with what we say to some extent. And I think that when you have these 99% on Rotten Tomatoes like that, that's because we get it. We're part of the generation that looks at it and goes, yeah, what they're saying, that's what we're trying to tell you guys. There's no dividing line.
I think that
we had liked this because it's calling it out.
There's still your like Mel Gibsons out there and your Bill Maher's who run around and pan the fact that we make superhero movies and the fact that those get such big numbers, and they pan the fact that
Bill Maher's just a crotchety old fuck, just like Bill O'Reilly.
I mean, like Bill Maher, I have it bad. Just my dad makes me watch Bill Maher all the time, and I just get tired of that shit. But the thing
my parents were Bill O'Reilly, so
yeah,
I feel your pain.
Well, that's pretty bad too. I was gonna say that the thing that makes it such a weird thing is that my theater wasn't young. My theater was not. There was a couple behind me that had to be pushing 80. And the thing is that everybody in that theater had a similar experience. They all had this sort of, for like a hour and 44 minutes, we were all in it together, and it was uncomfortable. There was gasp. There was people actually frightened. And that's the earnest thing about this is
that's
that
so good.
You go into movies, and the one thing is that, the theater's expensive. It's a shitty place. The floors are sticky. It's hot, it's too cold, it smells funny, the food's expensive. But one of the things that the theater has that you just do not get out of the home viewing experience is that you go to people you do not know and you sit down by them and you watch a movie and you have your own interpretations of what's happening on screen.
It's the communal experience.
And it's a communal experience that you just don't get anywhere else. We don't have that in video games anymore. We don't sit down and play together. We don't read books together.
Dude, I don't know what you're talking about. I can throw my headset on and play Dragon Ball Z and get yelled at by 13-year-olds.
I definitely want to get called
all day, man.
I want to get called weird racial slurs on Overwatch, and then have someone tell me that they're going to not finish the game out and just stand around and walk in circles to keep from disconnecting.
Just stop playing PUBG with PewDiePie.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
PewDiePie yelled racial slurs at me, but no.
I recently finished watching Key and Peele, their variety show, or whatever.
Variety show? Hold up.
What the hell do you call that
It's
show?
a
It's like one of those
sketch comedy
variety
show?
show is like what Sharon
It's like
Sonny
a sketch
did.
comedy. There you go. Sketch comedy. There you go. And so
variety show.
I just finished watching. It's a variety of sketches. That's what I was thinking of. Okay.
Variety
So wait,
show.
so now
off
people are
my
going to
ass.
get on Twitter and have fights with Justin because they liked Laugh-In and they think he's a fucking idiot. Okay, great.
So I finished.
I love
watching,
Laugh-In, but Key and Peele is not a variety show. I agree.
It might not be. I finished watching. Key
Suck
and
it to
Peele,
me.
And
Stop it.
I see a lot of Get Out when I was watching Key and Peele because they have a lot of those moments where they're like,
Yeah.
there are a lot of those horror moments, or like they have a
Well-
sketch and it like does a twist at the end, or it has something.
The two
that's
of them are just
unconventional.
brilliant with their writing. They are literally just like some of the most, like when you watch that content, it's just framed so
Didn't
well.
they meet?
It's written so
Didn't
well.
they meet on Matt TV's audition set? They came to audition together and
They
had
met
to
on
act.
Matt TV at some
Well, they
point.
had to act on their audition tape together, and basically Matt TV was like, "We can't take one of them because like this relationship is what makes these two work." And they took them both at once as one person. Basically, they took them.
They're just great.
Yeah, and there's those times where you get a comedy duo or a group that just works, and I'm honestly shocked that he didn't show up in this movie at all. Like, I'm shocked that there was no
Shit.
cameo or anything.
That would have been jarring.
That
That
would've
would have
been
been pretty jarring.
Yeah, it
And
would have been a bit much.
It would have felt like one of those sketches because a lot of the sketches ended up being something like they take something familiar that you're used to, and then they kind of throw a wrench in it, like right. So
Oh, what are you talking about? They
And
empty
they
a
look
garbage
like
can
movies.
over it and go, huh?
The D&D sketch,
That's great.
or
where the
like
black guy
all the
takes over the
sketches,
D&D game.
or all the sketches where they have the two valets just talking.
Oh, the
Yes.
valets.
So the
are
valets,
amazing.
like, they go back and forth, and at the end of the thing, they go, "That was my shit," and then they explode or something.
Well,
I think the Carl Winslow one is one of my favorites.
Yes, that
Oh
was a
my
good
God.
one.
The,
I love
Now
that.
you're going to make me go on YouTube after this and just walk skid after skid after skid.
one of the skits.
Well, if you're
I-
gonna watch that, watch the pirate shanty. That was
Oh
the
no!
one.
Watch
That's
the skit
God.
about the guy who won't sit in the chair, who just
I like
basically
that one, too. That
refuses
was
to
one of my
sit down
favorites.
because sitting down is for
Oh,
chumps.
yeah.
He's like, I'm too hard to sit down, Holmes, and he's standing against the table. I'm just gonna stand right here, and like he gets injured, and he's like, No, Holmes, don't do anything. I'm just gonna bleed out right here, and like he won't go to heaven at the end. Like it's the craziest thing.
I do wonder how much of like that sketch comedy was an influence into this movie, though. Like it feels a lot
Yeah.
like this movie in some ways.
Yeah.
It kind of worries me about his future because I was like, I could see him becoming that sort of Jim Carrey type where he just kind of leaves comedy behind and this becomes his thing. Because like 2 years ago, this guy was doing Keanu and chasing a cat around for 2 hours, and it was funny.
This movie still
I would
had
be
funny
fine with
moments,
that.
though.
I would be completely fine
does
with
have
that if
funny
he just went into. Yeah, but I mean, if he stepped into and really made stuff like this that was like a legitimately, you walk away from it thinking and you walk away from it unsettled. This is why this movie is a blazing pyre example of exactly why I like suspenseful horror movies and real psychological horror. Real.
Yeah.
Not jump scare bullshit.
Jump scares?
This movie,
Yeah.
That's crap.
Yeah, jump scares
This
are terrible. That's
was
why I stopped
great.
watching horror for the longest time.
The
'cause
the
it was
best
just all
jump scare I've ever
Yes.
seen still was that one from White Noise where the truck passed by a camera too close. It wasn't meant to be a jump scare. It scared the shit out of me in the movie theater, though. I audibly screamed in a movie theater over
The
a
last jump scare, the last jump scare I thought was good was from Signs when at that party
No,
in
do not
Mexico,
mention the one with
whatever.
that girl screaming in the theater.
They
Well,
walk across
guys,
the
we're
thing.
going to call it a close for tonight. We're going to put the nail in the coffin because we're never having PJ on the show again.
I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, what was the scary talking about, Pete? 'Cause I think we were talking about the same thing I'm talking about. We saw the movie
No,
together.
I don't think so because there's like this video from like a party in like I think
Yeah,
it was
from
When the
Mexico.
alien
Mexico or
walks
something.
across the
and the
screen.
alien walks across
Really?
this like little pathway, and every single time I looked down the hallway in my house, I fucking saw the alien and I got scared as shit. So
That
fuck
freaks me out,
Fuck
too.
that movie.
Well,
Yeah.
what's funny about that is we saw it in the same movie theater in Alvin, Texas. Shitty theater. Anyway,
that was shitty.
this girl, like in front of us, they showed a tape once and then they back it up and show it again. She somehow screamed on the second time, not the first. I was like, "Are you okay?"
Well, it's because she was looking at her phone.
Yeah, she wasn't.
It
paying
was
attention.
2003,
before
so
phones.
she wasn't looking at
Before
her
real
phone. I
phones.
hope.
No one was getting texts at that moment. They
Yeah.
were just getting calls that didn't know who it was
Her
from.
bag phone was in the
Calls that
seat
you
next to
couldn't
her.
identify. Who is it? but I was
Well,
gonna
guys, I really do think with that we can probably go ahead and put the nail in the coffin and go to final thoughts.
definitely.
Justin, since you were literally about to go for it, man. What do you got? Last final thoughts on the movie?
The movie is it's amazing. I don't know how else to put it. It's one of my favorite movies I've seen recently. I did see this in a block of decent movies, though. I saw, like I said, John Wick and I saw Logan all in that same 2-week span. But what's interesting about this is the movie I wouldn't have gone to see. Like I just don't go out to see horror movies unless there's a reason, a girl or someone wants to go see it with me. But I latched onto this because of the director, because of the reaction by critics early on, and it paid off. And I think what's interesting, like I said before, is that it for me was a personal sort of experience where it felt like, oh, you're not so alone because someone's had these same experiences. And these aren't just the experiences of one person. They're the experiences of a lot of people. And not just people that are black versus white, people that are poor versus rich. Like, you have these experiences where you go somewhere and you're out of place, and they know you're out of place, and you kind of feel cornered. And it's scary even without the brain swapping plot line. And it could have easily been one of those The Office UK style uncomfortable comedy movies that just sort of was an uncomfortable dark humor, and it took that extra step to be sort of off the rails and crazy at the end, and it works. It really works.
Well said. What about you, Levi?
I don't want to follow Justin. I can't do that. No, everything Justin said, this movie is very amazing, and I was very pleased with it. And I appreciate the way that the film was marketed because it didn't reveal what the movie was about. I was looking at the tagline at the top of the wiki article, and it's just because you're invited doesn't mean you're welcome. And that has pretty much nothing to do with what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
But it interests people enough to get them there, I guess. And I'm so glad that I got to watch this movie and then talk about it because I think it was Justin at the beginning of the podcast was saying you kind of have to talk about this movie with people.
Yes.
And I think that is the greatest things films can do is make people discuss things and talk about things and leave some things to discuss after the film, not spell everything out to the letter. And this film does an excellent job of putting little breadcrumbs there for you to pick up if you see them along the way. But if you don't, the next time you watch the movie, you can enjoy those little moments because you know what's happening. So, yeah, I think it's a finely crafted movie, and bravo to Jordan Peele for making this film.
Absolutely. Very well said. PJ, what do you got, buddy?
Okay, so I think Get Out is an absolute masterclass of horror. It plays on a lot of classic horror tropes. There's like a bunch of classic musical cues. There's a bunch of classic shots and scenes that you would see from it, and it doesn't have to rely on something being supernatural or just like unknown to be scary. Everything is within the realm of reality, honestly, in this movie. Like, yes, we don't have the science to do it all, but there's no science saying that we can't do it all just yet right now. It isn't frightening because of like jump scares. It sticks to what you want to see in the movie. It touches on a lot of racial tones, but not in a way that makes any one race the bad race. It makes characters bad characters, but not the race bad characters. I personally connect to it in a lot of ways because, of my personal experiences, and I think that I can see a lot of how Jordan Peele's experiences fit into this because, he's half black, half white, and he's married to a white woman, and how all that kind of plays into it all. There's no resentment in this movie, and I think that's what I like about it so much, is that it's kind of talking about our differences in a way that we can all discuss it without having to feel like, I think you're the bad guy right now, and I enjoy that.
Well said. Well said. I don't know that I could actually say it any more well or thorough than you guys, so I'll just say this. There are very few films that I've watched in my total career as a horror fan and someone who loves to have the crap scared out of me but has not had something to scare me in a long time.
Right.
This movie genuinely scared the shit out of me. And that says something. I highly recommend it. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. If you have not seen this film, please sit down, pop the earbuds in, turn the lights off, and watch it. You will be genuinely unsettled by the
now
end
that
of
it's
the film.
completely spoiled.
Now that it's
No,
completely
you spoiled the movie for you.
But no, that's the thing. I think even beyond that, I think you will still just the hypnotism scene alone, where he drops away from himself, is terrifying. It's great. I'll echo PJ real fast. Masterclass film. So with that, we'll go ahead and call it a wrap for the night, guys. Justin, anything you want to plug at the bottom of the show?
At CTK86 on Twitter, at Lens of Justin on Instagram. That's about it for me. Really, that's always how it goes with me.
Hey, no, always get it out there, man, so people can have online fights with you. PJ, PJ, what do you want to plug, buddy?
So I have a podcast called The Geeky Speakeasy. We air every other day on Wednesday at 9 a.m. on Google, and every other week at 9 a.m. on Google Play and iTunes, and at 9:30 on thegeekyspeakeasy.com, where you can find our Instagram posts and everything, which is also _Geeky Speakeasy. You can find me, the podcast on Twitter at _Geeky Speakeasy, and you can find me on Twitter at PacmanPJ, and Jordan Peele is my Patronus. #.
Levi, where can they catch us on the web, or where can they catch you on the web?
Well, they can catch us on the web. They can email us at fromthebonevault@gmail.com, and you can also catch the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bonevault. For me personally, you can catch me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Garage Movie Guy, and you can check out my YouTube channel where I give little short, less than 10-minute movie reviews, Garage Movie Reviews, and hopefully when this comes out, I'll be having some Halloween movies coming out shortly. If not, you can just check out the other movies I have there. And that's about it for me.
Nice. Well, all roads lead back to Midnight Lair, guys. You can go to www.midnightlairshow.com to gauge progress on the Midnight Lair television program, which we will be filming very soon.
Yes.
And we are beside ourselves excited. And then also, this podcast at, all the same information Levi already provided. With that, I think we're going to call it a night.